Government reassures Mwanza Isaka SGR project to be completed on time. TMA clarifies on strong winds warning in coastal areas. Good evening, I am Terry Mparanyanga. You can also follow us live via our YouTube channel, TBConline, and get all the latest news through our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter pages at TBConline. The Minister for Works and Transport, Professor Makame Mbarawa, has instructed the Marine Services Company Limited, MSCL, to put in place simplified transition system of cargo transportation to ease the process to transfer the service from MV Mwanza to the SGR railway. Here's a report prepared by Reginald Desika, read by Nasa Kingo.
Minister for Works and Transport, Professor Makame Mbarawa, visited the SGR construction project from Mwanza to Isaka in the Shinyanga region with the aim of inspecting the progress of the construction. Speaking after finishing the inspection, Professor Mbarawa says the construction of MV Mwanza, when completed, many neighboring countries will use the cargo ship to transport various products, so workable systems should be set up.
I
have directed the Marine Services to work on it. I advise you to discuss with the Marine Services on how we will design the ships, logistics, transportation with Roro and crane. The efficiency of Roro becomes higher. The TRC Director General Masanja Kadogosa says that the SGR project from Mwanza to Isaka is 23% completed and assures the construction will be finished on time as planned by the government.
Construction is in good progress and our targets has reached over 2%. Many structures have been accomplished and others are still under construction.
We rely on ships from Central Mwanza and Uganda that arrive to unload and load to other areas.
On his part, Mwanza Regional Commissioner Adam Malima says he will supervise the projects implemented in the region. We as citizens of Mwanza, we would like to thank the government. As the Regional Commissioner, I promise we will manage the projects very closely.
Next news, the Deputy Minister for the Ministry of Culture, Arts and Sports, Pauline Gekul, says the government plans to ensure that all the areas that were used as centers for liberation struggles for other African countries to be reserved. She believes the move will attract tourists from the respective countries, expecting to learn the history of their fighters. Here's a report by Remy Yacinti, read by Apasia Ringo.
In 1977, a young freedom fighter, Solomon Mahlangu, was arrested by the South African government under apartheid rule, and in 1979 he was hanged. This forced the ANC party to change the name of the School of Freedom Fighters in Mazimbu, Morogoro, to Solomon Mahlangu.
They have left various infrastructures such as teaching infrastructures in the sense of schools, social infrastructures such as cemeteries, hospitals and sport fields.
It is a quiet area where more than 100 bodies of South African freedom fighters were buried, which is now under the Sokoine University of Agriculture, SUA, in Morogoro. In the year 1992, the place was handed over to the Tanzanian government.
Tusingependa yapotee, tusingependa historia ifutike. Ndio maana mnaona kupitia wizara yetu tumeanza kuyatambua.
We would not like its history to be erased, and that is why our ministry has begun identifying them as well as putting up posters. As our organizer said before, we will cooperate with you in developing and repairing them. The most important thing is to keep memories and history. We will promote them as a place of historical tourist attractions for domestic and international tourists.
wenzetu ambao wanapenda kupata historia za nchi zao, lakini pia na watalii wengine wafikie kwenye maeneo haya.
Boniface Kadil, who is the coordinator of the Center for the Liberation of the African Continent, he says that all the important steps to reserve the areas have already been done.
We have gazetted this area as you suggested before, as it is the second area after Kongwa. Then another area will follow. In addition, these areas are reserved based on its existing heritage.
On to the next piece of information. Tanzania Meteorological Authority in the country, TMA, has announced the presence of strong winds in some regions in the country. To know more about that weather condition and its possible effects, we are joined by Joyce Makwata, who is a TMA weather expert, talking to our very own Faithangaga.
Thank you very much, Teddy Mparanyanga. Here with me is Joyce Makwata, who is a weather analyst from TMA. Welcome, Joyce.
Thanks so much.
Tell us, the TMA, the Tanzania Meteorological Authority, has forecasted that we will have strong winds and waves. So which areas will be affected?
Generally, TMA has issued that advisory of presence of strong winds and large waves along the coast of Tanzania, especially over the Indian Ocean, where we expect to experience period of strong winds and large waves over the mentioned area. And generally, we expect the areas along the coast, including Tanga, Dar es Salaam and Pwani regions, Lindi and Mtwara, even the Azores of Unguja and Pemba, is where we expect this scenario to happen so far.
And what precautions should people take, with regards to these strong winds and waves?
So generally, the impact that are being expected so far, we expect the areas along the coast, as I've already said, that to be affected. And more of the effect that are likely is some of marine activities to be affected, generally, especially fisheries, and some of transport that are being conducted along the coastal areas, especially over the Indian Oceans, is where we expect that areas to be affected more. So those people that are conducting marine activities, especially fishers, as well as transportation that is happening over the Indian Oceans, are more likely to be affected, and but to take necessary precautions due to the effect that have been that are likely to happen during the presence of strong winds as well as large waves.
Do we expect any strong impact, negative impact from these winds?
Sometimes the strong negative impact that are likely to happen is when the fishers, especially those are using the small vessels, are likely to be affected. And sometimes it's called, those vessels can be capsized. So those are kind of the effect that are likely to happen so far.
Lastly, what do you have to say to the audience watching right now? Some people may be scared with the strong winds and everything. What do you have to say?
People are advised to take necessary precaution, as I've said earlier, when we have these strong winds as well as large waves, as fisheries are affected, but also can find that marine activities like transportations, there must be some delay of transportation that is usually happening along the Indian Oceans. And sometimes if you have strong winds and large waves, you can see that more of the effect that have been happened so far is almost for the fisheries only. Yes.
Thank you very much. Back to you, Teddy.
Faithangaga, and on to the next news. Mtwara Regional Commissioner Colonel Ahmed Abbas says Mtwara region now owns a cargo ship that will be used to transport various products from the port of Mtwara to Comoros. He stated that the ship is expected to start operations in February this year. Here's the report by Martina Ngulumbi, read by Rose Shayo.
The meeting, which has brought together businessmen from Mtwara region and Comoro, they discuss what should be done to strengthen business relations between the two parties. The Mtwara Regional Commissioner Colonel Ahmed Abbas opens the meeting and explains the steps taken to have secured transportation system between Mtwara region and Comoro.
Kuanzia mwezi Februari tarehe za mwanzo,
February, a ship will leave Mtwara for Comoro to deliver food products. The ship is in the final stages of completing permits, and when everything is completed, I'll be called to launch it.
The Tanzanian ambassador to Comoro, Pereira Ame Silima, asked the businessmen in Mtwara region to stick to legitimate business.
Ni moja katika mambo ambayo yatatuweka pamoja muda mrefu.
What we're doing will keep us together for a long time. And let us put God first and be honest and also do legitimate business. This move is important because apart from business, they are also here to strengthen our relations.
The businessman from Komoro had a 3-day visit to Mtwara region to explore business opportunities.
It will be very interesting because the availability of a ship to work with Komoro has motivated me to work here because it is something I like. I'm impressed with the presence of this ship as it will make it easier for us to do business.
Business is a contract, and a contract must be documented. I insist our lawyers to engage themselves to do business in legal and understandable manner.
To start providing entrepreneurship training to Komoro citizens. Also, we have agreed to provide technology and various machines to Komoro Islands.
And on to the next news. Animal experts in Morogoro region say the relationship between elephants and humans have improved. This follows concerted efforts by the government to fight against elephant poaching. Here's a report by Remy Yasinti, read by Faithan Gaga.
The elephant is the world's largest land animal, weighing up to 6,000 kilograms on average. Males only reach their full size at 35 to 40 years. That's well over half their lifespan, as wild elephants can live for up to 60 to 70 years. The animal can keep memory for more than 100 years. In 1979, this was the main path for elephants to move from the Udzungwa National Park to the Nyerere National Park. But in 2004, the situation changed after some Morogoro residents shifted their human activities here. This affected the human-elephants relations. There are some people who lost their lives, and also the situation endangered the lives of the elephants, forcing the government through its experts to think about how to restore the previous relationship without causing harm to both sides.
We eliminate danger for residents by teaching people ways to coexist with these animals. You have heard we use chili and certain sounds.
But this expert says that at the moment, the relationship between the elephants and humans has improved.
Currently, the elephants coexist with the residents due to the government's efforts to eliminate poaching. The elephants now can feel safe.
Among the methods that are used now is to empower the people around the conserved areas is to give monetary incentives. This enables them to continue to care for the nature.
Through these methods, elephants won't harm residents. We have found a solution and we're glad for the research done, and now we await the implementation of the methods so that both elephants and humans can coexist peacefully.
The government vows to continue working with nutrition stakeholders such as the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, GAIN, to ensure that all forms of malnutrition are reduced in the country. Faithan Gaga has more details.
Sufficient and good quality nutrition is critical to development. That is why the government of the United Republic of Tanzania, in cooperation with various stakeholders in the nutrition sector, work hand in hand in ensuring that malnutrition is reduced and eventually eliminated.
Collaboration with other partners, inclusive GAIN, UNICEF and the like, have been also struggling to complement the effort of the government so that to really address the problem we're having in front of us. So if you take specifically from the aspect of GAIN, GAIN is a global alliance for improving nutrition, and it has been here for now almost 7 years.
The country director of the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, GAIN, Ms. Priska Rezahura, says zero malnutrition is an achievable vision, especially through effective partnerships and collaborations.
Zero malnutrition is an achievable vision. What it will take, it will require time. What it will take, it will require effective partnerships and collaboration. And what it will take is for us to be honest with each other in terms of what are the interventions that work best for Tanzania, and finally what it will take is also greater government commitment, not only in terms of technical guidance and policy, but also domestic resource allocation. This is our issue as Tanzanians. What development partners are doing, we're supporting the government. So I think with all that commitment and all that intensified engagement and greater government ownership, not only on the part of leadership, but also domestic resource allocation, I think it's possible. We have the land, we have the commitment, we have our president's endorsement.
Dr. Germana Lena, the managing director of the Tanzania Food and Nutrition Center, TFNC, here expounds on the strides that have been made in Tanzania in curbing malnutrition of all forms since independence.
We have really moved far. So when the country got its independence in 1960, for example, the prevalence of stunting was 50%. That means 1 out of 2 children was stunted, right? But we have now come down to the extent that in 2015-16, the estimates were 34%. In 2018, the estimates were 32%. And we are now waiting for the current Tanzania Demographic Health Survey of 2021-22 to see how more decrease have we seen in this area.
Faida Ngaga, TBC News.
Thank you, Faida Ngaga. And moving on to the health sector, a panel of specialized doctors from Muhimbili National Hospital and Mloganzila have set up a special medical camp to offer intragastric balloon placement procedure to patients at risk due to overweight. The Deputy Executive Director of Muhimbili Hospital Branch at Mloganzila Hospital, Dr. Juliet Magandi, says that the panel expects to treat more than 26 patients at the outset.
Since we have started this treatment, we have got a lot of clients, hence we decided to put up a special medical camp until Monday. I urge that my fellow Tanzanians in need of this treatment to come and get treated at Mloganzila. They don't have to travel to Europe, Turkey, or India.
Kwa wahitaji wote wa huduma hii tunawakaribisha.
In November 14, 2022, Muhimbili, in collaboration with the Mloganzila National Hospital, started providing the service as a measure to deal with non-communicable diseases, where the cost of the service will be about 4 to 5 million.
We put intragastric balloons to the people who weigh over 100 kilograms. However, we always consider the person's BMI.
The first 3 days are the hardest. The patient experiences symptoms such as nausea and vomiting, but can still perform their daily activities.
Oftentimes, we used to advise patients to follow certain diets. We were lagging behind on this technology compared to other countries.
And that item concludes the local news tonight. International news is up next. And here is international news with Apasia Ringo.
Peacekeepers in the Democratic Republic of Congo have discovered mass graves containing the bodies of 49 civilians following a series of attacks in Ituri province. Deputy spokesperson for the United Nations, Farhan Haq, said that the graves had been uncovered in 2 villages in northeastern Ituri province, about 30 kilometers east of the town of Bunia, and blamed on a local armed group. He said a total of 42 victims, including 6 children, were discovered in a mass grave in the village of Nyamamba, while the bodies of 7 other men were found in another village, Mbogi. Farhan Haq said the UN was calling for an investigation that would establish whether the mass graves and the attacks were linked to other groups, and peacekeepers launched a patrol to the area immediately to enhance security and protecting civilians. He added that the UN regional peacekeeping operation, known as MONUSCO, is ready to support the Congolese judicial system to investigate the attacks and called for those responsible to be brought to justice. Ituri, a restive province bordering Uganda, has seen a spate of violence in recent weeks after the killing of a teacher belonging to the Lendu community triggered reprisal attacks, which claims to represent the ethnic group. The Peru president, Dina Boluarte, has called demonstrators and other social and political groups to use peaceful ways to solve the ongoing conflicts facing the country. The president also criticized the protests for not having any kind of social agenda that the country needs and accused them of wanting to break the rule of law and raised questions about their financing. Though the protesters are demanding that she steps down, President Dina was defiant in a televised speech alongside key government officials in which she thanked police for controlling the violent protests and promised to prosecute those responsible. The protesters were angry as they want justice for the nearly 50 people killed in the protests so far and have committed to continue their demonstrations until Boluarte resigns. Firefighters have been working to put out a raging inferno that broke out in a building near a protest site in Peru's capital Lima, where police fired tear gas as thousands of protesters poured into the city to demand the removal of President Dina Boluarte. The weeks of nationwide protests have marked the worst political violence in more than 2 decades and highlighted the deep divisions between the urban elite, largely concentrated in Lima, and the rural areas.
Namibia President Hage Geingob has called for the acceleration of plans to construct additional classrooms as a matter of urgency. Speaking after receiving an educational development report from the Ministry of Education, President Geingob has insisted on modernizing educational infrastructure to improve performance. Here are more details.
Classrooms is among the challenges the Education Minister Anangi Pondoka listed in a report to President Geingob for dismal performance of grade 11 and 12 last year. More than 80% of the candidates who sat for the NSSCO and NSSCAS exams failed to qualify for admission to tertiary institutions. In her report, Pondoka says the absence of systematic support for both teachers and learners, declining discipline, as well as weak monitoring and evaluation at all levels of the basic education business are also a problem. The COVID-19 pandemic, the report states, did not present adequate time to master all academic competencies required to enable learners to progress successfully to the next grades. The report further outlines that this started from the peak of the pandemic in 2020 and 2021 academic years, when grades 11 and 12 learners missed 53 days out of the 198 school days planned for face-to-face tuition. To address the situation, the Education Ministry appealed for targeted funding for the procurement of temporary structures to ensure all learners have classrooms for teaching and learning, as well as procurement of adequate teaching and learning resources.
And that was international news. Sports news is up next. Here is sports news with Malio Cheto.
Artists from Tanzania and China entertaining the audience who have attended the celebrations of the Chinese New Year, given the name Rabbit signifies the Chinese tradition.
They want to act as a rabbit in their goals, or maybe in their life.
For we Tanzanians, we should learn something from these Chinese toward promoting our culture from the low level to the higher level.
As China prepares to celebrate their new year, both countries have been urged to strengthen their economic and cultural ties. Speaking during the opening ceremony of Chinese New Year celebrations held at the China Cultural Center in Dar es Salaam, representative from the Chinese Embassy to Tanzania, Sao Peng, says China will strengthen economic and cultural cooperation with Tanzania for betterment of both countries.
United together and work hard for prosperous future both in China and also in Tanzania, also to promote the cooperation, the China and Tanzania relations.
Tanzania outspoken boxer Karim Mandongo asks the upcoming boxers to be disciplined and committed to the game if they want to win local and international fights. Mandongo told the TBC news reporter in Dar es Salaam that all the bout he won, both local and international, has been because of his commitment and discipline he applies in and outside the ring.
First of all, you need to depend on God, then have discipline to everyone. You need to respect all, and lastly, if you want to become boxerman, don't expect too much to be famous. Just listen to your teacher and follow his instruction. I believe if you do all this, you will get achievements.
Mandongo was speaking to journalists after he was awarded another car by a boxing stakeholder a few days after he was given a similar award few days ago. Mandongo outclassed his opponent Daniel Wanyonyi in non-title fight held in Nairobi, Kenya last week. Malio Cheto, TBC News.
Thank you, Malio Cheto, for sports news. And that marks the end of our news bulletin for tonight. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I am Teddy Mparanyanga. Have a lovely, lovely night.